What is a lateral in football? This is Sports Simplified, and I'm going to be going over just that. Now, a lateral is a rugby play that's been integrated into football. Quite frankly, it's been around forever. However, it is not used very often because the common school of thought knows that there is more to lose than gain from it. Now, a lateral is much like the name suggests. It's a pass or toss that is thrown laterally or parallel on the field, or even backwards to another player. And this play can happen anywhere on the field. A great example of this is in this play here during a Sunday night game in Week 12 between the Baltimore Ravens and the Los Angeles Chargers. You can see here in this play, Keenan Allen catches the pass from Justin Herbert and then laterals the ball to his teammate Austin Ekeler, throwing it ever so slightly back. That way, Austin Ekeler can advance further up the field on the Baltimore defense. As you can see, he has a better angle to advance further up with the ball than Keenan Allen does. Another great example is in this play here, when Travis Kelce laterals the ball to Kadarius Toney, who had a great angle to make it all the way to the end zone for a go-ahead touchdown. Now, if you remember, this play caused some controversy, as if you recall, at the beginning of the play, Kadarius Toney lined up offsides. So there was a flag on the field that took that touchdown off the board, which very influenced that outcome of that game. Kansas City ended up losing to Buffalo. And if you look at the season at large, that play caused a lot of changes in the playoff picture. If you remember, Buffalo, if they lost that game, they might have not made the playoffs. Instead, they get the win. They go on their 4-game winning streak to advance all the way up to the number 2 seed in the NFL AFC playoff picture. They're 1 seed above Kansas City. Kansas City's at the 3 seed. So a very influential play and call on the NFL season. Now back to the topic at hand. Both of those laterals were executed very well, but those plays cannot happen very often. Now you may be asking, why? Well, in the modern game, or quite frankly in the game of football in general, there are never 2 players running up the field parallel to each other in that scenario. Most of the time, it's one player advancing the ball as far as he can, and if there are other players, his teammates, running up the field with him, they are typically blocking for the player with the ball. That way, that player with the ball can advance further up the field. The only sort of play where you see a lateral done often is a flea flicker or trick play. A flea flicker is a lateral type play that happens in the backfield. It can be similar to play action depending on how it is executed. One way it is done is if the quarterback hands it off or pitches it to the running back, and then the running back proceeds to throw the ball downfield. You see this sometimes with Derrick Henry throwing several touchdown passes in his career. Keep in mind, though, that to be able to throw the ball downfield, you have to be behind the line of scrimmage. So that is a standard football rule. And keep in mind also, if you're watching on TV, the line of scrimmage is represented by the blue line. Also keep in mind that if it is a non-quarterback making the downfield throw, he needs to receive the ball either by way of direct snap, lateral, or handoff. Another example of a flea flicker is in this play here, where the ball is tossed to the running back, then the running back proceeds to throw the ball back to the quarterback, and then the quarterback throws the ball downfield. The universal goal for all these plays is to trick the defense to have a receiver open down the field. There is also another kind of lateral called a hook and ladder. That is where a quarterback throws the ball downfield to a receiver, but then the receiver tosses the ball back to a player running by him to receive it, to run around to get into the end zone or further upfield. In this play here, it is used to get into the end zone, but the way the hook and ladder works is that guy who hooks runs kind of a natural pick, a natural screen. That way the guy who's running, the lateral guy, he gets further up the field, stopping the defense so he can keep going. Now, the other kind of play you may see a lateral on is a endgame miracle type scenario where the players are going to pitch the ball around and try to slowly move the ball up the field. That way there can be an endgame touchdown to hopefully put them on top. The most famous successful attempt of this play is the Miami Miracle seen here in this clip, where Kenyon Drake gets the ball from one of the receivers, and he actually does make the ball up the field and scores on the touchdown. Rob Gronkowski, who is playing strong safety in that position, did not have the angle. Kenyon Drake ran right past him and scored the touchdown. However, most of the time, this play concept, notoriously called pitchy woo-woo by Scott Van Pelt, leads to a turnover, a fumble where the defense recovers the ball in an unsuccessful lateral attempt, resulting in the end of the game. Now, the other example of this pitchy woo-woo occurring is on a kickoff return. This is another endgame scenario, and the most famous successful one was the Music City Miracle that is happening here in this clip. Now, the success rate on these plays are very low because they are so hard to execute. Like I alluded to earlier in this video, there is more risk than reward for this to be a normal play call. That's why most of the time this is a last-ditch effort, end game scenario type play where they need something like a miracle to be able to win the game. Now, for example, the lateral is not considered a pass. The lateral, if incomplete, the receiving player doesn't catch the ball, is a live ball, and if the defense jumps on it, that is a turnover, it results in a fumble. Also, this year in particular, there are a lot of trick plays that are being attempted but are successfully snuffed out by the defense. For example, in last night's game between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins, early in the second quarter, there was a trick play called where Tua Tagovailoa tossed the ball to his running back Devon Achane, and he was going to throw the ball down the field. But if you see in this clip here, instead he holds onto it and goes down for a tackle for loss. Now, I have seen that happen several times this season. And the reason it happens is because in today's NFL, it is harder and harder to successfully trick a defense. Now, the reason that is, it is largely attributed to the one-way offenses this year. Most teams do not run the ball effectively, and if there's no dual threat, there's no threat of the ground game, defenses aren't going to bite as hard on a play-action attempt or a trick play. The only play that consistently causes confusion amongst the defense in today's NFL is pre-snap motion. That is why offenses like Miami and San Francisco consistently have receivers wide open for a catch, because that pre-snap motion confuses the defense, where they result in a miscommunication that leaves an open zone or a misguarded man. That way the offense can have a wide open receiver. But if you made it this far into the video, keep an eye out for the teams that run the ball effectively in the playoffs. Because if a team can run the ball effectively, meaning they rush for over 100 yards, or they're averaging 3, 4, or maybe even 5 yards a carry, those teams are going to have success and they're going to last longer in the playoffs. Because as the old adage goes in the NFL, running the ball is actually more important than passing the ball, because running the ball sets up the play action pass. That way the defenses actually have to respect the run. And not just that, but it opens all facets of the field, even in the regular passing game as well. If you looked at last year's Kansas City Chiefs, the reason they won the Super Bowl and they made it so far is because even though Kansas City historically doesn't run the ball, they found a good ground game in Isaiah Pacheco. If you look at that 2023 playoffs for the Chiefs, resulting in their Super Bowl victory, and the divisional round against Jacksonville, Isaiah Pacheco ran for 95 yards. Then in the next game, the conference championship against Cincinnati, they did not run the ball as effectively. They didn't run for over 100 yards, but then jumped to the Super Bowl where they beat the Philadelphia Eagles. As a team, they ran for over 100 yards, which resulted in a Super Bowl victory. So just keep that in mind come playoff time, who can run the ball and who can't. Like and follow for more.